фотография твоя.
Squad 3 arrives at a park where a girl named Grace is trapped at the bottom of a narrow brick well. Cruz, a veteran firefighter, is lowered into the dark shaft. As the walls close in, Cruz stops. He stares at the wet bricks, his breathing shallow. He ignores the radio commands from above. He is paralyzed by a claustrophobic breakdown. Lieutenant Severide senses the hesitation and hauls Cruz back to the surface. Severide dives into the well himself, grabbing Grace and pulling her to safety. The rescue is a success, but the team's elite reputation is compromised. At the station, Cruz attempts to mask his failure as a physical injury. Severide ignores the excuse. He knows Cruz lied about his mental state. He declares Cruz a liability to the four-man team and suspends him immediately. Cruz is ordered to undergo psychological evaluation. He walks out of the firehouse, stripped of his duties. Driven by shame, Cruz returns to the training facility alone. He dons his heavy gear and oxygen mask, facing the dark simulation chamber. He reflects on his tools, the Pryax and Hydra Ram, realizing they are useless if the man wielding them breaks. He begins a rigorous drill, implementing a 4-second breathing technique to regulate his heart rate. He forces himself into the confined, smoke-filled space over and over. The panic rises, but he suppresses it with rhythmic control. By dawn, the hesitation is gone. Cruz emerges from the drill steady and silent. He has rebuilt his psychological armor through sheer repetition. Severide watches the progress. The elite rescuer has reclaimed his place on the squad.
Joe Cruz takes over as acting lieutenant following Kelly Severide's departure. The transition is met with immediate hostility. Newcomer Bamford targets Cruz, using verbal insults to undermine his authority during active drills. Bamford's constant insubordination causes the squad's performance to suffer, leaving Cruz visibly shaken. He begins to doubt his own capability, feeling like a mere placeholder for a superior officer. Captain Stella Kidd intervenes. She confronts Cruz about his imposter syndrome, the internal fear that he is a fraud. She tells him directly that he is not there to mimic Severide, but to lead as himself. This conversation stops Cruz's downward spiral. He realizes that his leadership is valid. Cruz utilizes his Instructor 2 certification to re-establish control. This qualification grants him formal command over training and personnel. On the training ground, he stops the drills and addresses the team. When Bamford attempts another sarcastic remark, Cruz shuts him down instantly. He uses his technical authority to expose Bamford's lack of discipline in front of the entire crew. Later, Cruz corners Bamford for a final ultimatum. He states the rules of Firehouse 51 clearly. The team operates on mutual support, and internal sabotage is not tolerated. He demands absolute compliance with the chain of command. Faced with Cruz's unwavering stance, Bamford's arrogance vanishes. He falls into line. Cruz has moved past the shadow of his predecessor. He is no longer just filling a seat. He has secured his command through raw, professional grit. Jesse Pinkman refuses to pay taxes on his drug money, but Saul Goodman delivers a cold reality check about the IRS. Saul explains that the government ignores the source of wealth as long as they receive their share. To a tax auditor, Jesse is a young man with a mansion and no visible employment. This discrepancy leads directly to a felony tax evasion charge. Saul uses the nail salon around them to break down a 3-step survival strategy. The first stage is placement. Jesse moves his illegal cash into a legitimate business entity. Next is layering. Saul demonstrates this by mixing red cotton swabs into a jar of white ones. He blends the dirty money into the salon's daily cash flow until the origin is hidden. The final stage is integration. The business returns the money to Jesse as clean taxable income. His drug profits are officially documented as the earnings of a savvy investor. Jesse calls the bureaucracy Kafkaesque. Finding the system's logic absurd, Saul remains unmoved. He demands a 17% cut to prevent Jesse from sharing a cell with Al Capone. He makes it clear that the IRS is more dangerous than any rival dealer. Jesse is left with a choice: pay the lawyer and the government, or lose his freedom to a paper trail. The nail salon is no longer a joke, it is his only shield. Hank sits in a hospital bed and recounts the moments before his near-fatal encounter. 1 minute before the assassins arrived, a voice on his cell phone warned him of the attack. The caller used a voice scrambler to mask their identity. This single detail reveals a larger architecture of violence. Walter White drives to a secluded desert trailer for a private meeting with Gus Fring. They sit at a bare wooden table. Walt begins to dissect the events with clinical precision. He realizes the warning call to Hank was not a gesture of kindness, but a calculated move to trigger a public shootout. Gus needed the hit to turn into a spectacle. By alerting a DEA agent, Gus ensured a high-profile gun battle that forced the American and Mexican governments to intervene. The strategy worked. The resulting political pressure led to a massive crackdown that crippled the Juarez cartel. Gus successfully used the authorities to eliminate his competition and sever the cartel's supply lines. With his rivals removed, Gus now holds an absolute monopoly over the methamphetamine trade in the Southwest. The rewards are total control and undisputed territory. Walt looks directly at Gus and acknowledges the deep game at play. He admits that he owes his life to this intervention. Instead of expressing fear, Walt voices his respect for the tactical brilliance. He tells Gus that he would have made the exact same choice. Gus responds by offering a new arrangement. The 3-month contract is replaced by an open-ended deal worth $15 million a year. The negotiation ends in cold, mutual understanding. Walter White activates the positive pressure system, forcing the internal air pressure to rise to create a barrier against the outside world. He shuts down the multi-million-dollar facility and declares the laboratory contaminated. Jesse Pinkman stands in confusion as the production line stops. Walter points to a single housefly. To him, this insect is not a nuisance, but a catastrophic risk to the chemical purity of their product. The timer for the current batch hits 0, signaling the start of the next phase. Jesse moves to begin the alkalization process, the critical extraction step required for their high purity yield. Walter blocks him. He refuses to open the vats or proceed with any chemical work until the fly is neutralized. He treats the presence of a single organism as a total failure of quality control. The tension escalates as Walter prioritizes his obsessive standards over the production schedule and the demands of the cartel. Jesse eventually returns with pheromone sticky traps, using chemical lures as a biological control method. They hang the yellow strips among the industrial tanks and specialized equipment. The two men begin a silent, desperate hunt through the sterile environment. Walter stalks the room with a makeshift swatter, his eyes fixed on the ceiling and pipes. He ignores the ticking clock and the mounting financial losses. In this space, the laws of chemistry are absolute. Walter refuses to allow a single microscopic impurity to compromise the yield, turning the high-tech lab into a theater of obsessive-compulsive warfare. Walter White sits in the lab, his mind fraying from total exhaustion. He begins a cold, mathematical calculation of his own end. He identifies a perfect moment to die, a window of time that has already passed him by. For his life to make sense, he needed to leave enough money behind, but he had to disappear before his wife discovered the truth. The logic points to a specific night after his daughter Holly was born, but before his